morning from Cape Town. We're here at the MVNO Nation Africa 2024, and I'm here together with Nkosinathi Mbele, CEO of AdNotes. Hello, nice to meet you.
Hello, Kim. Pleased to meet you.
AdNotes has developed solutions using the TV white space technology. Can you explain a bit more about this technology and what is the benefit of it?
Yeah. No, thanks so much for having us here. You know, TV white space is a very interesting technology that assists operators to reach hard-to-reach areas like rural areas or remotely located areas. It utilizes already available spectrum that has been allocated for broadcasters. But this spectrum, it has some gaps which are called TV white space. Those gaps are there to make sure that there is no interference between broadcasters. Then TV white space is able to package those gaps, which are TV white space, to enable us to offer affordable broadband in rural areas.
Okay, so that means there's actually a spectrum already given to probably connect the unconnected.
Absolutely. The spectrum is purely underutilized, especially when you look at digital migration programs, even here in South Africa. The spectrum is becoming even more available in a specific area. But one of the issues, of course, is how do you deploy without causing interference with some of the incumbent people that are still using the spectrum. So TV space has proven to be very successful here in South Africa. We've seen a couple of investment coming in to make sure that more people that are unconnected, they receive reliable and affordable services.
All right, very interesting. So we're here at the MNO Nation Africa event. So what does your solutions, when we talk about the spectrum switch or the TV white space technology, what benefits does it offer to MNOs to be on one side probably more efficient or reducing costs?
Look, we've seen incredible MVNOs in the market, but the dependent on MNOs sometimes cause problem for those brands. So what we've seen TV white space doing right now is offer the MNOs more affordable infrastructure for them to expand their coverage, because MVNOs, of course, depend on the MNOs coverage. So in that way, we see a huge potential to reduce digital divide in areas where MNOs are unable to invest further. But also, we are looking at a potential of TV white space playing a role of being a neutral host to make sure that the under-leveraged 5G network that MNOs spend so much. In South Africa, they've recently acquired additional spectrum for 15 billion rand, but due to additional cost of building more base stations, that investment has not realized acceptable returns for MNOs. So MVNOs, as a result, they might suffer to reach potential areas like rural areas if no one is stepping in and tries to close the gap of building more base stations, of providing a neutral host for MNOs to able to leverage their hard-earned spectrum which they are sitting with at the moment. So AdNotes and the spectrum switch, spectrum switch, if I can give you more details on the spectrum switch, it's a heartbeat of TV white space. You cannot deploy any TV white space without leveraging on the spectrum switch. It offers a needed protection between the people who are leveraging this new spectrum, which has been made available in the rural areas in particular, to make sure there's no interference between some of the broadcasters that are still leveraging on the TV white space spectrum. So all those protection, because most people were kind of skeptical about TV white space when it's being allowed to operate commercially in South Africa, the issue of what if it interferes with some of the broadcasters that are still leveraging on the same frequency. But now with spectrum switch coming in, and spectrum switch in South Africa is the only licensee by ICASA that is allowed to offer or to share available frequencies in a particular area. Yeah.
Okay, so we can say that AdNotes can help MVNOs to unlock hidden potential.
Absolutely. A lot of people right now, if you look at digital divide in South Africa, most of those people that are not connected, are in rural areas. And I always want to emphasize that being connected it's one thing than having a coverage. We've seen MNOs covering almost 99% of the country, but then the population which are covered are not able to afford to be online. So now, with the coming in of affordable technology like TVWS space, more people can be now online from as little as R5 per day, 24 hours with unlimited and uncapped internet. So that, if you look at that benefits for MVNO that are no longer paying for the part of the spectrum because the spectrum is free, but also the technology is more affordable. You know, the cost of a base station of TVWS space costs 5 times less than the base station of MNOs. So that's a no-brainer. The more we build a lot of these base stations across the country, the more people can afford to be online. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned, I mean, we mostly forget rural areas, the semi-rural areas. So does TV white space could it play a crucial role, for example, for critical services when you talk about health,
Yep.
emergencies?
Yeah, when you look at people that have already invested into TVWS space in South Africa, particularly in our network, we're looking at people like CSIR, looking at people like UNDP, Old Mutual Foundation, looking at the UK FCDO, you're looking at CCOM, all these organizations that have really invested in, I've also been mentioning Kakiso Trust, their goal is to make sure that critical services like education, health, are receiving necessary attention in order for those markets to service or play their role in, improving the level of education, delivering affordable health anywhere in South Africa. Yeah.
Thank you. So you mentioned that you successfully launched the TV white space networks in South Africa. We also talked earlier today about Tanzania.
Yep.
What makes your technology especially scalable?
Look, one of the key factors which I think is a huge advantage of this technology is consume less power. We know in Africa, one of our biggest challenge in the infrastructure within telecommunication is availability of power. Most of our base stations right now, they are powered by solar power supply. So it makes it easy to deploy even on areas where there's no power. So we're no longer dependent on having power supply and reliable supply. Like in South Africa, for example, we've seen TVWS space playing a huge role when other providers were struggling with load shedding. But then because it's consumed less power, we were able even to deploy more of this technology.
And you can run through the night through batteries. It's not consuming a lot.
No, it's not consuming a lot. I mean, when you look at some of the, we were actually measuring with one of the base stations where that base station was consuming about 42 amp, but TVWS space was only doing 2.5 amp. So you can see it's a no-brainer. It can be supported throughout the night with enough batteries. Then during the day, with the blessing we have in Africa of the sunlight, we're able to recharge those batteries and able to run basically off-grid. Yeah, completely.
Okay. So how does AdNotes navigate the regulatory environment in Africa to ensure compliances and maximize the potential of the technology?
Yeah, so one of the roles that is played by CSIR on the making sure that their research work around some of the regulatory environment. So with TVWS space, I know in South Africa it's took longer than expected to be officially allowed to be deployed commercially. But right now, because working with also organizations like UNDP, where we were able to provide developmental insights to the regulator. Remember, regulator, their role is to regulate environment so that it can develop the country further. But now with our availability of real and credible data from these organizations that we work with, we are now able to support some of the regulations. One of the regulations which just came through now by ICASA is looking at how can the new band from 3.2 gigahertz to 3.8 gigahertz, how can it be used by smaller players to bridge digital divide, but also how can we have district-based mobile operator. Right now in South Africa, we should expect to have maybe AdNotes only being a mobile operator only in one district. So that work, we've supported that project because we're bringing in real developmental insight through working with UNDP, FCDO in the UK, as well as other various organizations like CSIR to provide a well-researched based data to enable the regulator. Of course, I think there's still huge room of improvement. I mean, MVNO, they also have some of the issues that they are dealing with in terms of bringing in some of their solutions. But I believe that if you can eliminate the time frame by having real data readily available to support the regulator in their regulatory work. So we see our role, since we are already on those markets which the regulator want to improve connectivity, we're able to support the development of MNVO. Yeah.
All right. So if you look at the partnerships you mentioned before, CSIR and UNDP, especially when we look at low-cost broadband, so how important are those partnerships and how can, let's say, your MVNOs leverage or benefit from it?
Yeah. So what we're doing right now with those partners, which we are grateful to work with, we were able to prove a case that some of the gaps that currently exist, some of the challenges that currently exist, cannot be solved by one technology. I think that's another issue that we've realized. Our expectation that all the solutions will only come from a well-resourced organization. Remember, the more other organizations are well-resourced, the more expectation from their shareholders to get return as quickly as possible. But then when you bring a developmental insights into the whole picture, you realize that even if people can afford as little as $1 per day to be online, how do you scale that in a way that more people now, the more numbers with R5 per day, it makes business sense for other players to come into that market. But also the neutral host which we are looking with is going to also encourage 5G operators, the MNOs, to say, okay, their role, they will no longer be focusing on bringing a back wall in rural areas. They will no longer focus on building the core network. A neutral host will provide the back wall as well as a core network where every player can plug in their 5G antennas in order to offer service in that area. So all that is coming from the case study that we've been building over the past 3 years with all these partners, CSIR, UNDP, FCDO in the UK. So we are looking at now to publish a white paper that will document all the steps. So when I give people the business in the box on how they can leverage on this work that we've been working with to build their successful MVNOs.
Okay. If you look into the future, what are AdNotes' plans for expanding technology solutions, and how will these developments further help MNOs to benefit from?
Yeah, so currently we are supporting various TVWS-based trials. One of the most interesting ones is in Tanzania, where we're looking at, in Tanzania they've got a good support for telecoms industry. They offer most telecoms subsidized tower co-location, but what we've realized there is we want to add value on that. Having a tower is just one of the solutions that we are providing, but that Tanzanian government is providing, but also bringing neutral host on those towers, but also bringing affordable and less power-consuming devices, which we are busy engaging with them right now. It will support the work of the country that they are doing. But also, the other markets, the issue of regulation, it is a challenge, but I've realized that the more you provide information to the regulators become more acceptable of these technologies, but also the focus, in my opinion, should not only looking at one solution. We need to make most of these countries accept and understand that a mix of various solutions is the only solution to reduce the digital divide. Yeah, so that I feel like that role, if we are scaling it up and bringing in MVNO, which is quite interesting even today, looking at the potential of Africa, where they anticipate that 500 million new users will be online by 2025. then ask yourself, where is the investment going to come from? Where are the right devices are going to come from to address and meet such demand? So by bringing TV space, we believe that most countries can make sure that all their needs, and also when you deploy TV space, align it with developmental need, aligning with education, because we don't believe that one solution can fit into all the challenges we're trying to address. So if you are able to build a solution purely for education, build a solution for health, but then because of affordability, we are now flexible of addressing specific challenges within those sectors. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
That was Tech Africa News from MVNO Nation 2024. You can find more on techafricanews.com.